All right. So welcome everyone. My name is Dan from Lifestyles Medicine, and thank you so much for joining us for another event, online event. It's really wonderful to see familiar faces and some new ones as well. Just note that we are live streaming on Facebook, so please take note of that. And also, of course, this information that we share is for educational purposes only. Please speak with any your healthcare provider before implementing any of this information. So, I want to, as usual, recognize our partners and sponsors. So, I'm Dan from Lifestyles Medicine. We're a not-for-profit based in Toronto, and we put on community-based lifestyle medicine programs to help people learn how they can prevent and potentially even reverse their chronic diseases using lifestyle principles. So, you can learn more about us at lifestylemed.org. We're proud to partner with our a clinical partner, Pathways Lifestyle Medicine Clinics. They have 3 locations in Toronto, and they're really specialized in the treatment and reversal of chronic diseases using science-based lifestyle medicine. So if you're interested and want to book an appointment, check them out, pathways2wholeness.ca. We also partner with Paradise Fields. It's a certified organic farm and clinic in the Hamilton area, and they have a really bold mission. It's to produce the world's most nutrient-dense medical grade produce and help people experience the healing power of nutritious food. So it's a really beautiful place. You can check it out, paradisefields.ca. Finally, we proud to partner with the West Toronto Korean Seventh Adventist Church. Adventists uniquely put an emphasis on health as part of their faith practice, and also, of course, importance of family. So you can learn more about them at adventist.org. All right, so we're really happy to put on this Love is Medicine event, and as the name suggests, we believe that love is medicine. One of the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine is social relationships, the most important of which is family and marriage. And in the clinical setting, we often see that many health issues are related to social stresses and marital issues. So we put on these events to just help do our little part in promoting happy marriages and relationships, to share principles, timeless principles that help people strengthen their relationship with those they love. So we're really happy to put on this event. Today's topic is man's greatest need and woman's deepest desire. Hopefully, at the end of this session, you have a better understanding of your spouse and your partner. And we're really pleased to be joined by Mike and René Lemon. They are the speaker and director of It Is Written Canada, a nationwide TV ministry. And they're husband and wife, and they're here to share with us. So what we'll do is we'll turn it over to them for a few minutes presentation, and then at the end, we're going to take your questions. So please put your questions into the chat box. If you're watching on Facebook, you could put it into the comments, and we'll try to get to as many as possible following the presentation. So Mike and René, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. And thank you, Daniel and George, for having us. And this is a really big topic. It's an important topic to me personally. And why are we covering it? Because we want to give you a picture of something better.
So many couples are caught in such a destructive, crazy cycle that 38% of all Canadian marriages end up in divorce. And the craziness seems to be getting worse. It's like someone coming into a room, flipping the light switch, and discovering the lights won't come on. But instead of stopping to fix the problem by changing the dead light bulb, they stand there and constantly flip the switch on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like my parents' marriage. And it's important to me, this topic, because personally, my parents, they divorced when I was 3 years old. And that was very painful to myself and my 3 brothers. And it led to a cascade of all kinds of horrible things that happened in my life personally and in our family. And during this time, especially when the whole country is locked down, the problem is escalating. Increase in depression and anxiety, self-harm, overdose, and domestic violence. So according to a national survey, domestic violence during this time of the lockdown in Canada has been more severe and more frequent. And the number of cases are just through the roof. And so anyone working in mental health and working with couples is seeing this. And it is a serious so they could actually enjoy being together during this time of social isolation. And we want to also share with you how your marriage can thrive and become a burning and a shining light of hope to others who are caught in despair during this dark period.
Mike and I have been asked by couples over the years to conduct their weddings. And whenever we do, we work together counseling them. And we have found one book very beneficial. It was written by Emerson Eggerichs, and it's a best-selling book. There's been over 2 million copies sold to date, and it's called Love and Respect. And the subtitle reads, The Love She Most Desires, the Respect He Desperately Needs.
So we're going to look at some of Eggerichs' studies, his findings, but also look at John Gottman and put those together. We don't want to make it too complicated, but we want to give you something practical. So the book itself that René mentioned is built upon the findings that the primary emotional needs of men and women respectively are that man's greatest need is the need for respect and woman's deepest desire is for love. That doesn't mean that a man doesn't need love. Of course he does, but it means that his greatest desire. So it's like the air that he breathes and the air that she breathes is love. And many times when we conduct weddings and we share this, you know, the man's greatest need is respect. Guys will come afterwards and they'll say to me, you know, that's it. That's it. That's what I want, right? And surveys have shown that if you put love next to respect, guys always will say, you know, well, at least over 80% of the time will lean towards, hey, I would rather have that. That's the air that I breathe. So René and I, we ask each couple who comes to us to read this book, and whenever they read it, they are so amazed, and they all say things like, so that's why we've been having troubles, or that's why we fight and we find it so hard to understand each other.
And most of the ladies say to me, now I understand him better.
Or now I understand her better. And the fact is that men and women communicate differently.
For example, when a woman says, or when we say, I have nothing to wear, it means that we don't have anything new to wear.
And when a man says, I have nothing to wear, he means I have nothing clean.
So there is no serious danger of conflict here, but it illustrates that we mean different things by the words we use. So we kind of speak in code. A helpful way to understand this difference between men and women is that women look at the world through pink sunglasses, and so that colors everything they see is colored pink.
And if you would see it the other way, I mean, they can look at the same thing, but a guy would look at it through blue sunglasses. And so they're seeing differently.
They are. We are. So men and women can look at precisely the same situation in life and see life much differently. Inevitably, their pink and blue lenses cause their interpretation of things to be at odds to some degree.
And not only do they see differently, but they also hear differently as well. So they can hear the same words like, I have nothing to wear, and they're hearing something different when they hear that.
Or if a woman says, we need to talk, she simply means, I just want to spend time with you. Let's talk.
And to me, my wife says we need to talk. At least I used to think this way. I used to think, oh no, now I'm in trouble.
But when I say we need to talk, it doesn't mean that you're in trouble. And it doesn't either mean that you need to fix my problem or give me a solution. I just want to chat and I just want you to listen.
Yeah. You see, that was the strangest thing to me when we first got married, that whenever Renee would say, let's talk, I just need someone to listen to me, then I would listen so intently. I would try to solve her problem because, you know, I've got four brothers, and whenever guys talk to each other, they want a solution. They never talk to just chat. Okay. So, and so when she says that to me, you know, we need to have a chat. I'm just like, oh no, what's going on here? And how do I do this? So one guy said that when his wife says to him, we need to talk, he asks her three questions. He says, first of all, am I in trouble? And if she says no, then he asks, do you want a solution? Do you want me to solve a problem, or you just want an ear to listen?
It's usually just an ear to listen because I'm energized by the closeness, the open conversation, and Mark's understanding.
Yeah.
And that is like air for me, and it allows me to breathe.
Yeah. This is huge, right? So Renee is energized by closeness and open conversation and understanding. The point is that we want to energize one another and not drive each other crazy. So one guy called us and he was having trouble understanding his wife, and she was so frustrated, and they both asked us to come over and try and help them out. And so we went over, we were listening to them for a while. And then I just said to him, I said, okay, just sit and listen to her, which he did. And I asked him to as he was listening to her, to really listen, to try and put it back to her better than she put it to him, right? So afterwards, I said to him, so now what did you hear? And tell her what she said, because she doesn't feel like you understand her. And so what he did was he used the exact same words that she used. He was really listening intently, word for word, exactly what she said. And then she looked at us and she said, you see, he doesn't understand me at all. And he was so perplexed. He's like, I use exactly the same words you used. And so Renee and I looked at each other and we looked at him. And then I said to him, you know what, she's right. You used the exact same words that she did, but the way that you said it was pretty clear that you really didn't understand her. And so we had to spend time talking with them and teaching him how she communicates and her language, so that he would understand it in his language, so he could be able to listen.
See, we know when someone is really listening to us, when they can say what we said back to us better than what we said it to them.
Yeah.
So that means someone's really listening, right? Here's another story based on a real experience a married couple had. A couple was about to celebrate their 10th wedding anniversary, and the wife began to wonder if her husband would remember. There had been plenty of times during the past decade when he had forgotten the anniversary altogether. No matter what she did, little hints, bigger hints, he would miss it. And she would feel unloved and get so upset and withdraw from him. And then, of course, he would withdraw from her.
And he would feel so disrespected because she didn't understand that he really did love her deeply. He just had a hard time remembering important dates. And so when it came to their 10th anniversary, with no hints at all, he remembered. And so he made a beeline after work, went to Hallmark, got him this beautiful card. He saw all these cards on the rack, but then he saw this colorful one. And he quickly, this is it. This is the perfect one for her. And so he took it home. He paid for it, of course. Then he took it home. And when he got there, his wife was there. So he kind of snuck it into the room. And then he was signing the card, and he put a few hearts on the envelope, just for good measure. And he was just so happy. So he went in there and he gave the card to his wife and said, "Happy anniversary, sweetheart."
And so she's beaming from ear to ear. She's so happy, and because finally he remembered. And so she tears open the card and begins to read. And all of a sudden, her face falls. The eyes that have been bright with loving energy turn cold, and her beaming countenance becomes sour and dark.
"What's wrong?" her husband asks her. He's a very sensitive guy, and so he picks up on these things.
Nothing?
There's something wrong. I can tell. What's wrong?
No, there's nothing wrong.
But there is. I can see. What's wrong?
Well, it's not bad for a birthday card.
As you might guess, this conversation is heading downhill. "You're kidding," he says, and then he grabs the card away from her. He says, "No way, unbelievable."
No, you're unbelievable.
So the husband blinks in the face of his wife's very real anger. He knows that he loves her deeply, and he has remembered their 10th anniversary. He even bought her a gift, a little present, which he hasn't given to her yet. And so he says, "Well, honey, I made an honest mistake. Give me a break."
Give you a break? An honest mistake? Oh, it was an honest mistake, all right? Because you just don't care. Do you know what? If you took your car in to be detailed and they put a stripe on the side that was even a fraction of an inch off, you would notice that, right? Why? Because you care about it. You talk about your car more than anything. Oh, look at my fancy car, she mocks him. But you don't care about our anniversary. You don't care about me.
Now, Renee really got into that. She was like doing it. That scared me. Okay, so so the husband's heart is beating out of his chest and he feels like it's about to explode. He can't believe it. He has moved from feeling guilty to being defensive, and now he's getting really angry.
Mm-hmm.
What he thought was going to be a loving celebration of their 10th anniversary has become a conflict that is escalating really fast. "Hey, I made an honest mistake, all right? Give me a break. I don't deserve this. If you didn't put such pressure on me, maybe I wouldn't have made such a mistake."
You buy me a birthday card on our 10th anniversary and you expect me not to be upset. I don't deserve this. I'd rather you hadn't bought me any card at all. And with this, she throws the card in his face.
That sounds too real. He has tried to do the loving thing, and all his wife can do is say nasty things and treat him with contempt. And then he shouts at her. He says, "You know what? The way that you're talking, I'm so glad that I got you a birthday card instead of an anniversary card." And with that brilliant parting shot, he storms out of the room and he slams the door behind him. So think about it, how quickly this happened. Approximately 2 minutes, maybe, passed by since he handed her the card. And this couple, a husband and wife who truly love each other, have come home expecting to spend a wonderful romantic evening together. And instead, they end up stomping to opposite ends of the house and staring out the windows into the darkness, wondering how it ever could have come to this, and thinking to themselves, "This is crazy."
Mm-hmm. So, what went wrong? Why is she left feeling unloved and he is left feeling that his wife doesn't respect him?
Mm-hmm.
How did a snowball sized problem escalate into a major avalanche? Unless this couple learns to understand each other and stops this crazy, destructive cycle, it will lead to the breakdown of their marriage or perhaps even domestic violence.
It's so sad, really, to watch a relationship unravel like this. Why is communication between husbands and wives such a problem?
Mhm. Well, Dr. John Gottman, who has over 40 years of experience working with and studying married couples and is recognized as one of the 10 most influential therapists of the past quarter century, he led a research team that spent over 20 years studying 2,000 couples who had been married 20 to 40 years to the same partner. These people came from diverse backgrounds and had widely differing occupations and lifestyles.
So here's the thing. Gottman saw two distinct groups. So he had studied them in depth, thousands of people, thousands of couples. And these are married couples. And he divided them into two groups, the masters and the disasters. And I think your parents were masters at it. They taught me a lot. Just watching Renee's parents. They're married today and they're happily married. It's wonderful. So the masters, they were those who stayed married and experienced thriving marital intimacy, whereas the disasters had relationships that cascaded, in his words, towards divorce. Or sometimes they stayed married, but they were very unhappy.
Today, the Gottman Institute can predict within 3 to 15 minutes of observing a couple's interactions with a 96% accuracy whether or not they will be married or divorced within 10 years.
And of course, that just doesn't affect them, it affects their children. But this is also an observation that the Gottman Institute came with, and it's this: by observing couples' interactions during the last trimester of pregnancy, they were able to predict the child's temperament and the child's neurological development and reduce 50% of the uncertainty looking into the first 3 years of the baby's life, just by studying how the parents argued in the last trimester.
So it doesn't just affect the children that are there,
Yes.
but also the children in utero.
Yeah.
Right. Gottman noticed this. He noticed that the masters were very gentle with one another. He said that even when they raised an issue, they raised it as if it was an invisible soccer ball. And they were just kicking the ball around together, but they were always on the same team. Their partner is never seen as the enemy. And if they do or say something hurtful, they would always think the best. Well, that is odd. I don't understand why they're behaving like this. It's completely out of character. I may not be able to decode their behavior, but I'm going to choose to believe the best about them and try to understand them.
And I think that's the key, right? To see the best in the other person. And when you see the best in someone else, you bring out the best in them. So the masters, they each took responsibility and they owned even a small part of the problem that was raised whenever there was a problem raised. So they worked hard to understand each other and they were able to decipher the codes between each other. So whereas the disasters, they pointed their fingers at their partners and they were very critical of them. As the masters talked together, almost always there was what Gottman calls a strong undercurrent of two basic ingredients. Get this: love and respect. This is in his words. From all of his findings, these are the two ingredients of the masters, is love and respect. These are, he says in his words, the direct opposite of and antidote for something called contempt. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Perhaps the most corrosive force in marriage. So
Gottman's findings confirmed what Dr. Egerich also saw in his studies in the Bible in Ephesians 5, verse 13.
Or verse 33.
Oh, sorry, verse 33, yeah.
So all of his findings were scientific findings, but then he saw this verse, Ephesians 5:33, and it says this: each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself. And listen to this: the wife must respect her husband. So this is ancient wisdom, and it's been going on for centuries, but now we're discovering it just by studying couples and how they get along or break apart. So this is a really huge
So
discovery.
Dr. Egerich's studies clarified how women needs love just as much as she needs air to breathe. He pictures the wife having an air hose that goes to a love tank. And when her husband steps on the air hose by making her feel unloved, she lashes out, "Get off my hose, I can't breathe." And this causes her to react negatively, criticizing and putting him down so that he will get off her hose and give her air.
And that really helped me a lot to see that picture. So simply put, whenever she is not getting air or love, then she is crying out, "I feel unloved by you right now." So whenever she's reacting, that's how you can just predict she's needing love. However, he interprets her negativity as a lack of respect or contempt. And he's right. She is being contemptuous of him, but she doesn't even realize that. She thinks that she is saying, "I need you to love me more. I need you to be more gentle towards me. Show me your commitment by coming close and by understanding my heart." But when he sees this kind of behavior and he thinks this is completely irrational, and what does he say? He says, "She's just trying to control me," right? I don't know if that hits a nerve for some of us. So you see, respect is the air that he needs to be able to breathe. If he's going to be able to treat her with love, he needs this air. He can't otherwise. Otherwise, he's going to, treat her unloving. So his air hose runs from a big tank, and it is labeled respect. And as long as he gets that air coming through, then he's just fine. And whenever he is treated disrespectfully, he can't be gentle, he can't be close, and he can't understand.
So then his air is cut off.
Mhm.
And a man reacts negatively because his deepest need, which is respect, is not being met.
Mhm.
And so now the battle is on.
So there you have what's called the crazy cycle. And we can show it out here. We can put it up to the screen. I hope you can see that. So basically it says that that without love, she reacts without respect. And when she reacts without respect, he reacts without love. And so it's like she's suffocating, right? And so she reacts, and she's reacting without respect. But then when she reacts without respect, he reacts without love. And that is the crazy cycle right there. So husbands and wives, they keep spinning on this crazy cycle because they don't understand that what seems to be the issue isn't really the issue at all. The real issue is always love and respect, and everything else is just filling in the details.
So we want to encourage you to buy this book and learn about the opposite of the crazy cycle, which is called the energizing cycle. So staying on the crazy cycle will get you off. Staying on the energizing cycle will get you off the crazy cycle.
So basically it looks like this. I hope you can see that. So his love motivates her respect, and her respect motivates his love. And that's the energizing cycle. And that's really what we want to be on. We want to be energizing one another. And there's more details in the book. The book has a lot more strategies on how to stay on the energizing cycle. And so we recommend that you get the book. We don't get any money for recommending it. And we don't even know that the doctor who wrote it, but it really has helped couples that we work with, and we've learned a lot from it ourselves, and it's helped our marriage. So Gottman, let's go back to John Gottman. He revealed how critical love and respect are when he identified, and I just want to finish with these four. I think this is huge. What he called the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and maybe you've heard this before. He called them the four horsemen: criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling.
He said that these four horsemen come riding into a marital relationship, just like the four horsemen in the book of Revelation, and they point towards the end of marriage. But it doesn't have to be doomed if you can get off the crazy cycle and get into a habit of staying onto this energizing cycle. You see, the energizing cycle motivates, whereas the crazy cycle is reactionary.
Yeah, and it depletes and destroys the marriage. It's corrosive. So criticism is the first horseman. And but you have to understand that criticism isn't the same as complaining. So criticism or criticizing someone is an attack. It is an attack on your partner at the core of their character. So maybe you can show the difference between complaining and criticizing. Using that example of the couple, you know, with he buys
the
her
anniversary card or the birthday card. So a complaint would be something like this: I was afraid you were going to forget about our anniversary. Not because it's not important to you. I know that you didn't do it on purpose, because I know that you value our relationship. But it's happened in the past, and when it did, it made me feel less valued. So can you notice the gentleness and how she is taking responsibilities for her feelings when she is complaining?
Yeah, because she's using I statements. This is how I feel. But she's not pointing the finger at him.
Yeah. Whereas critical would be, you never think about how your behavior is affecting me. I don't believe you are that forgetful. You're selfish. You never think of me. And all you think about is yourself and your car.
So can you see the difference between complaint and criticism? Criticism is like you, and complaint is I. This is how I feel. Yeah.
So defensiveness is the next horseman, and it is typically a response to criticism. We've all been defensive, and when we feel unjustly accused, we fish for excuses and play the innocent victim so that our partner will back off. So it kind of works like this. The question that she's going to ask him: did you read the card you gave to me for our anniversary? Did you not see that it's actually a birthday card?
And then he responds defensively. He says, oh, give me a break. How can you blame me for that? I tried, but I can't do everything right. I just can't do anything right, it seems like, in your eyes. You have put so much pressure on me. You make me feel so flustered that I didn't really look properly. It's really your fault.
You see, if he says something like this, he is not only responding defensively, but he reverse blames in an attempt to make it her fault now. Right?
Yeah, and that's defensiveness. So when the masters used a non-defensive response, they expressed acceptance of responsibility. In other words, they admitted their fault, and that's the opposite of being defensive. And they were trying to understand their partner's perspective. So let me give you an example. So if he was being, asked, didn't you see that this was a birthday card? He could say, oh man, wow, that was really wrong of me. I am so sorry. See, he's not being defensive at all. He could say, please forgive me. I should have been a lot more careful, and I should have looked at the card. Wow, this is crazy. He says, but that's entirely my fault, and I don't deserve it, but can you give me another chance to buy you an anniversary card? See, that's not defensive.
No, that's not defensive. So he's using our statements.
Yeah.
and not you statements, right?
And I'm taking responsibility.
And you're taking responsibility.
By the
yeah.
way, this didn't happen to us. This
Yeah.
happened to another couple. So,
But we have a really funny story to tell you now that we're on wedding days and anniversaries. So we have good friends of ours, and they told us about how the husband was responsible for buying the wedding cake, but he left it until the last minute. And so when he went to the local bakery to get the wedding cake, there was a birthday cake that said, "Happy birthday, Gertrude," written in colorful icing on the top of this cake. And neither of them were named Gertrude, and they didn't even know anyone named Gertrude. So that was their wedding cake, and the icing was in blue and yellow.
and that was the only cake in the entire bakery. And so he was like, I have to buy it. So he took it. That was their wedding cake. His wife, she could have broken down in tears. She could have started blaming him and just getting upset. And their marriage probably wouldn't have lasted beyond their wedding day. But instead, this is what she chose to do. She started to laugh. She just laughed and laughed, and she thought it was so funny. And every year on their anniversary, they order a cake with blue and yellow icing, and the words on the top are "Happy Birthday, Gertrude." And instead of becoming a disaster, it turned into a unique opportunity so that every year they have this hilarious tradition on their anniversary. So she didn't show any disrespect towards him, and he ended up loving her more. His love for her grew. And that's what the masters do.
Mm-hmm. So now we've come to the single greatest predictor of divorce, contempt, which is the next horseman.
Mm-hmm. So when we communicate contempt, we are truly being unkind. We're being hostile. We're even vicious towards the other person. We treat others with disrespect. We mock them. We call them names. We mimic them. We even use a voice that puts them down. We belittle. We use body language like rolling the eyes. So the target of contempt is made to feel absolutely worthless.
Mm-hmm. So when she accuses him of loving his car more than her, she is showing contempt. And all he hears is disrespect.
Mm-hmm. Contempt this is what Gottman calls it, sulfuric acid for love and respect. So research shows that couples who, listen to this, who are contemptuous of each other are more likely to suffer from infectious illnesses, colds, flus, and have a shorter life expectancy than others due to a weakened immune system.
Because contempt erodes the immune system. At Ohio State University, they showed how T lymphocytes don't proliferate as much, and natural killer cells that are toxic against tumors are not as effective in a relationship that has contempt and criticism. Because contempt is fueled by long simmering negative thoughts.
So you can see, I mean, we don't want contempt in our relationship because it's the single greatest predictor of divorce. And so it has to be eliminated. Never show contempt towards your partner.
Mm-hmm. Well, stonewalling is the fourth horseman, and it usually is a response to contempt. Stonewalling occurs when the listener withdraws from the interaction, shuts down, and simply stops responding to their partner.
And guess which males or females are more likely to stonewall? Men are usually more likely to stonewall than women. And they will withdraw emotionally from the conflict and from discussions because they can't remain emotionally engaged. So 85% of stonewallers studied were men.
Mm-hmm. When women stonewall, on the other hand, it's usually predictive of divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, women who feel silence or stonewalling, they feel that as hostility.
Mhm, mhm. So whenever a man stonewalls, they see it as not hostility, but as the honorable thing to do, because they know that it is not right for a man to fight with a woman. And so they really are trying to make this situation not get worse. Because you see, what happens within a guy is that his heart is elevated. He feels like a soldier in combat. And by any expression of criticism or contempt, he's like, I got to get out of this situation. And so a guy will try to calm down by remaining silent.
Remember, because his heart rate is actually going up now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But this is very upsetting for a woman because it intensifies her pursuit of the issue. And so she's thinking to herself, he is trying to tune out, he's turning away, and so she keeps coming at him.
That would be scary, right? I mean, think about it. He's understanding I should withdraw to be honorable, and she keeps on pursuing him because she wants to resolve the situation. So this is what I recommend. If you're feeling like you're stonewalling and you don't want your partner to get the wrong message and feel like you're being hostile, rather stop the discussion and actually speak out loud and tell your partner, hey, let's take a break. Okay, just say, hey, all right, I'm feeling a bit too angry right now to keep talking about this. Can we please just take a break? I need to get away, get some fresh air, maybe go for a walk, and then we can come back to it in a bit. I'm not ready for this right now. So it'll be easier to work through it later if he can get, maybe 20 minutes, go for a walk, go for a run, do whatever it takes to just calm down and stop this flooding of emotions, so that he can get back to a real conversation and it can be helpful and loving. So a tiny spark in a dry forest can quickly catch fire. And if a couple doesn't know how to put it out, then it's going to turn very serious, like a wildfire. And we used to get those in BC when we were there, just tear up the whole mountain. So our purpose today has been to offer you strategies of how to make your marriage into one that is like the masters and not the disasters. And if it's helped you, we're really happy for that. If there's other people who could be benefited from this, you can share the link with them, and maybe they would be, if you think they would benefit from it, then share it with them, and hopefully we can help others.
So we would like to conclude with this definition of unconditional love.
And think about it in terms of also unconditional respect. Okay.
Unconditional love and unconditional respect. Here it is from 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 to 8. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs.
Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. Now look at this. Love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Now that's really beautiful. So thank you, everyone. If there's questions, Daniel, I think you're in charge of that.
All right, Mike, Renee, thank you so much. That was wonderful. I thought that part about contempt was interesting, how you were saying it was related to like depressed immune system and all that. Obviously, as a lifestyle medicine organization that caught my attention, it's truly our relationships are related to our physical health. And that's why we're doing this. So thank you. We had a request, Mike, if you could show the energy cycle again, the energizing cycle. MJ is requesting that.
Sure.
So MJ, if you could, hopefully you could see that.
You can take a screenshot if you want. You can also look it up online, the energizing cycle.
So his love motivates her respect, which motivates his love. So I think the key word here is motivation.
Motivation,
Like they
yeah.
motivate each other.
Yeah.
Whereas the crazy cycle is they react.
Yeah, they're just reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you. And hope everyone can see. We put up the book. This is the book, right, Mike?
That's it.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, by Dr. Eggeridge. I think he has some talks on YouTube, I believe. And so yeah, check out the book. Get it anywhere. So yeah. Mike, we had a question that came in when folks registered. It was about kind of preparing. So say we have a young person that's listening to this
Yes.
and they want to prepare to, love and respect. What are some tips? They're not married yet. Maybe they have they're engaged or they're just dating somebody.
Right.
What would be the best way kind of to prepare to be respectful, to be loving? Some tips for young people.
That's a good question. A lot of that for me, I didn't learn it in my home because my parents divorced. I learned a lot of that from watching couples who were good at it and reading books and just getting educated. Because we were all boys in my family, I started learning from girls, just talking to them and what was the difference and trying to understand where they were coming from. I think that helped.
I also think it's very helpful if you have a mentor couple that is, that is older than you or that they've been masters in marriage, just to speak with them and to rely on them.
Yeah, there's a lot of couples we've married over the years who continue to talk to us, but because we were teachers as well, we used to talk to the students about this quite a bit. And just having that discussion, seeing how important that is.
Thank you. We have a question from Ashley. Ashley, thanks so much for joining us. Was there another book, Mike, Renee, that you mentioned, or was it just this one by
Gottman has a number of books. John Gottman, one of them is Why Marriages Succeed or Fail, and he goes into quite a lot of details there about his methodologies. But there are a number by Gottman as well that I would recommend. So you just look them up on Amazon.
Okay. How do you spell Gottman?
Gottman.
Gottman. Okay.
John, John.
Put that in the chat. John Gottman. Is that right? Right there?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Ashley. Mike, Renee, my wife right now, we're entering the third trimester of our first child. So when you were talking about that part about how they linked conflict in the third trimester, they could predict the temperament of the child.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
I found that really fascinating.
Yes. So that environment is, the child is picking up the environment that is out and within the relationship, and also the
stress from
the
stress,
mother, right?
Stress
or the if the mother's at peace, it's that's very important. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And just a question as I was listening to you share. So when people get married, obviously people are in love, but so how does it become like just a crazy cycle? Like how does it even become like two people who are supposedly in love kind of degenerates into that? And it seems like many or maybe even most couples kind of end up like that.
I think it's very important. And I think that the biggest time is when we have periods of stress. So when we have this period of exhaustion, it usually leads to a period of, you're not as strong. So a period of depression in your, in your whole system, and then it leads to your weakest point, and then you get sensitive and you let things out. When it starts off and everything's, moonlight and roses, it's beautiful. But then when you have the realities of life, work and the stresses of just making income and payments and things like that, it can go downhill quickly if you don't know how the other person, what they're saying to you, and you misunderstand and you jump to conclusions. And those four horsemen are really important to understand, that it doesn't degenerate from criticism, defensiveness and contempt and stonewalling. Those four you want to remove from your relationship and keep it gentle. Keep it gentle, and you're always on the same side, to remember that this is a lifelong commitment, and you think the best about the other person, even if it looks wrong. Like, here's something that Renee's grandpa said to me many years ago. He said, well, actually, it was her grandma. Her grandma said, I said, if you saw Opa going down the street and there was a young blonde on his arm, what would you think? And he was supposed to be home for lunch, and then he called you and he said, I can't make lunch. She said, I would think that I would assume that the lady was blind and he was helping her across the street. Right. So what she was saying is, I always think the best about my husband, and he always thinks the best about me. And that was really encouraging to me.
I think too, Daniel, it's, for us, our pink sunglasses and our biggest desire is love. So, but for me, like when Mark says he loves me, that energizes him. But that energizes me, right? But when I say, but he gets energized, not when I say, I love you, but when I say, I respect you. I respect you for understanding me, for listening to me and saying back to me better than my own words. I respect you for working so hard and for bringing, money in, and for taking such good care of me, and for protecting me, and for protecting our daughters. So instead of using the word love, filling that word, not filling it, but replacing it with the word respect, because men thrive on that word respect, just like we thrive on the word love.
And expressions of that.
Right. Yes. Great. Don't see any more questions coming in, but we did have a comment from Edith saying that oftentimes husbands, they want to give solutions, like you're saying.
Yes.
So maybe, and I think that's so true, to be really honest. What are some tips for husbands for us not to do that? Like, Mike, what do you think?
There's a video online called It's Not About the Nail. And this, I don't know if you've seen it, but this lady has, is it the lady?
Yeah, it's not about
the lady has a nail sticking out of her forehead, and she's talking to her husband, and he can't get his eyes off of the nail, and she keeps on saying, it's not about the nail, right? It's like, I have this pain in my head, and he keeps on trying to solve it, and he's like, if you could just get that nail out of your head, then you would be fine, right? And so I always think of that. If you put it in a funny kind of humorous light, then you start thinking, wait, it's not about the nail. It's not about me solving her problem. It's about me listening to her, and the problem gets solved. So when my daughter, my eldest daughter, was little, we came from South Africa. So in South Africa, she would run around without shoes on. And so when we came to Canada, she wanted to run outside without shoes on, but there was snow on the ground. And my wife is like, oh, you can't let her go out. And so I said, just let her go, because she's throwing a temper tantrum. She wants to run outside without shoes on. She doesn't like shoes. So she runs outside, and she gets her feet all cold and icy. And so she comes running back in, and she's screaming and she's hollering and everything. So my instinct was to solve it and say, you shouldn't have done that, whatever, but I didn't. I actually thought of her emotions. So I said, man, your feet must be terribly cold, and that must really hurt. So I was talking to her emotions. And when I talked to her emotions, she stopped crying. She said, yes, they do. They hurt, and they're burning. And I said, oh, that's horrible. That must feel really, really bad. And as soon as I wasn't trying to solve her problem, or tell her how bad she was. I was actually fixing her by understanding her emotions, by listening to how she was feeling. And that was the hardest thing, because, just to listen, it solved it a lot quicker. So always listening to the emotions instead of trying to solve the problem. And that's it's sort of like flying a plane in the clouds, and you got to trust your instruments, trust that truth. She needs you to listen to her and listen to her emotions rather than solve a problem.
Okay, wonderful.
Mm.
Hey, Mike, Renee, how can people learn about It Is Written, stay in touch with It Is Written?
There are so many ways. We have our website, iiw.ca. We've got YouTube, and so if you look up us on YouTube, you'll find our YouTube channel. We have Instagram, we have Facebook. Yeah, we've got podcasts. So anything that it is written, that information should be there.
Or you can watch us on CTV.
Yeah. Or 3ABN,
or 3ABN, or Hope
Channel, or Yes TV. There's a number of other stations. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Mike, Renee, thank you so much. That was really wonderful and practical. I hope we all learned something that will really strengthen our marriages, especially, today it is Valentine's Day. So, yeah, we thank you. Want to thank everyone for joining us. We want to also invite you to our next online event. It's called Kitchen Remedies. We have a live demo and health talk on how you could transform the simple foods in your own kitchen into simple home remedies. So please check it out. You can sign up. It's all free. lifestylemed.org/online. So I hope you can join us for that. That's in 2 weeks, I believe. So again, thank you so much, Mike, Renee. Thank you. This was really wonderful.
Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us. And it was an honor for us to talk again. And happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, your lifestyle is medicine. Thank you.